an end-to-end, I will say, crash course or a community edition course, which I will explain shortly, about an complete end-to-end for DevOps. Okay, our agenda today. So first, we will start by having a high-level overview about the DevOps. So we will start looking about a DevOps, like, um, as a very high-level overview about that. And after that, we will understand the DevOps roadmap and how to be a DevOps engineer. Then we will talk about, what is the DevOps course editions. Like we have what we call the community edition course, and we have EE or enterprise course, which is a commercial course, and what is the difference between them. And then we will get more information about the GitHub repo and our platforms, how you can find the information, how to access all our, like demos, source code, and all of that on the GitHub. After that, we will talk about the importance of the community or having a DevOps, network over the world with many people like passionate about the DevOps and how we can share our knowledge across all or among our community members. And then we will talk about the continuous integration deployment lifecycle and how we cover the complete end-to-end. And then we will get the final demo, which will cover an end-to-end for the DevOps from the beginning to the end. Okay. So high-level overview about DevOps. When we start looking at the DevOps, usually if you start Googling DevOps, this will be the first image or sign that will appear in your search result. However, when we start looking at the sign, you start looking and see many activities in that one. For example, we have plan, code, build, test, package, deploy, monitor, operate. But however, the market start just using using DevOps as only in one area. Let's say, for example, some people just define DevOps as Kubernetes or Docker or containerization, or maybe CI/CD. But actually, when you start looking at the DevOps is more wider than just some practices or automation or CI/CD or infrastructure as code or Kubernetes or Docker. Actually, DevOps, as you can see, it's a complete end-to-end that covers the entire development lifecycle. This is when we start looking at all the disciplines in the DevOps: plan, code, build, test, package, release, configuration, and monitor. This is all the area of the DevOps. And when we start thinking about the DevOps, we need to think about all these disciplines and the practice and principles inside each discipline. So this is what we call the DevOps. It is not only one area or one discipline or automation. It is a complete end-to-end. And this is what we are going to cover today. So when we start looking at that, so what will be the roadmap for being a DevOps engineer? So again, based on this discipline and practices, we have many practices and principles inside each disciplines. And this practice and principles, it does not belong to any technology or platform. This is just like an engineering practice and principles, which inside each disciplines. And again, in order to start understand the DevOps, we need to deeply understand of all these disciplines. And once we understand these disciplines, if we start looking, for example, at the tools and the platform for working with DevOps, implementing these disciplines and practices, we will see like we have a lot of, or many tools and platforms, which seems, like very difficult or challenge that, we get understanding or working with all these tools and platform. This is why, like the question will be, how can I start, like learning all these tools and all, get understanding of all this, being familiar with these tools and platforms. And to answer these questions, I think we just need to understand more about the DevOps role. So DevOps role is all about being a T-shaped skills. You know, being a T-shaped skills, it means you have, a cross-functional skills, but you have, a vertical domain knowledge, and this is completely different from other roles, which is doesn't require this, T-shaped skills. But DevOps is all about being a T-shaped skills. This is why if we start, for example, looking at, let's say, the junior DevOps engineer, sorry. So if we start looking, for example, as the knowledge of the depth of knowledge, we can see that, as a DevOps engineer or a junior DevOps engineer, you start your career, you are required to have a small depth in all disciplines. And which means, again, when I say like depth of knowledge, it's mean practices, platforms, tools, but the most important is principles and the practices or engineering practices in each area. And as you can see, mostly it will be focused on the build and release configuration, but you still have to have a T-shaped skills across that. If you get more experience, let's say, for example, a senior DevOps engineer, it means that you will get more depths of experience across all areas and disciplines. And if you are going to be more experienced, like DevOps architect or maybe principal DevOps, then you will get more experience and more depths in each area. So, and this is unlikely or unlike the other I-shape role, which is, for example, SRE, which require, a depth of one area or few areas, or maybe like being a project manager, scrum master, product managers, or maybe like a QA or tester. But being a DevOps, it's all about being T-shaped skills, like having cross-functional skills across all disciplines, you know, once you have these skills and principal engineering practices and all of that, then you will be able to learn and understand these tools and platform. Because again, for you now, once you get understanding of this practice and principles, learning a tool or platform, it will not be a problem because you understand exactly why this tool exists, or how this tool will fit in the landscape of the complete end to end. And this is why it will become easier. So if I start looking at what is the roadmap for the DevOps, how can I get more about or building my DevOps, skills around that based on what I explain as a T-shaped skills and all of that. So again, based on what we explain as a T-shaped skills, the main idea of having the roadmap is all about how you can learn all these disciplines, but not with a huge depth, but it's just like you start with, I will not say with a small depth, but I will say with enough depth, or with depth enough to start your career, so you can start your career. And this is exactly why I developed this course, which is on GitHub, called Advanced Introduction to DevOps, which is 30 hours. This is our course that we have for free as a community edition. And this course is consist of 19 modules, 63 lessons, 83 demos. And what we are going to see today, just for sake of just our session today, we will see only one demo from out of 38. So the course cover a complete end-to-end plan, develop, test, release, and monitor and learn. So in the plan, the course will cover all the planning, activities, disciplines, including creating a project management, managing backlog, prioritization your backlog, sizing your requirement, your epic feature, user stories, or product backlog item, how to manage assigning work items to people, and all the team, resource leveling and resource availability, velocity, tracking progress, and all of that. And then for the part of development and test, it's cover all the source control, how to manage version control and Git repository, managing unit testing, build verification and continuous integration, quality gates for your continuous integration, and then going for release. And then we're going for release, which is auto provision environment. This will be the environment that will hold your application, and then automating the deployment for your application to the provisioned environment. After that, automated the functional or acceptance testing or end-to-end testing, and then promoting your package environment to the next environment and so on. And after that, it will be monitor and learn how to monitor our application, which is like, gathering telemetry about the usage and the performance, usability of the application, and then getting this feedback and incorporate this feedback into the backlog to start developing new feature or maybe fixing bugs and so on. So again, it's a complete end-to-end which covered by the modules of the course. So when we start looking at the community edition and the open source, so what is the difference between the course as a community edition and the enterprise? So community edition, it's a full open source project, everything on GitHub, with all the labs and the demo. I will show you that in the demo. And again, you can enroll at any time as you attend the session. There will be regular session that I will run with you, explaining, answer your questions. You can open an issue on GitHub, And again, we have a very specific guidelines how you can ask a question on GitHub to get the best answer and get the best support. For the paid or for the enterprise edition, this will be like, a detailed demo explanation, like you can think like this is like a direct support that you can get if you would like to, expedite your, I don't know if I am only the one, I'm not sure, Ahmed. I think Rahab maybe can help you. So the enterprise edition is all about expedite your learning. So this can be because you have a direct support, you can get a direct answer, get direct mentoring or mentorship and so on. Okay, so let's talk about this is our GitHub repo, which is under my account, the repo called DevOps Step by Step. And I would suggest the first is that you start our repo because you need your support and to become one of our stars team members here. And then after that, you start adding a watch to our repo. Once you add a watch, make sure you get watch for all activities. Once you get, adding a watch on all activities, you will get notified about all our new, development. It's not only for, for example, we enhance the demos, we enhance the labs, all the practices, and we working using the GitHub, board. So you will get familiar with our contribution, and even you can, join us as a contributor. You will find a well-defined guides how to be a contributor, how to join us, and become part of our community if you would like that. If you have a value that you can come and contribute. So again, once you have this notification, you can see, for example, the change, what has been added to the files, what has been deleted, or so you can get all of that. We also have our knowledge base platform. So for the enterprise edition, we have a private knowledge base, which is called question to answer. And for the community edition, we have the GitHub issue as a public knowledge base. So this is for the private, and I will show you both of them, either the public knowledge base or the private knowledge base, but this is the private knowledge base. So let me first get for the first demo when we can see, all the information on GitHub. So as you can see, it's very easy if you just type my name with GitHub, Muhammad Radwan GitHub, and then open the first repo. So as you can see, this is the repo. So again, I would suggest getting star and then in here for the watch and seeing all activity. Once you add that, you will get notification. So let's see all the files here. So as you can see, this is our course, Advanced Introduction to DevOps. So this is the course outline. This is the lesson outcome. This is the demo and labs. And this is the frequently asked question. This is course preparation point if you would like to understand what you should prepare for each lesson. So for example, this will be the outlines, what is the module, what is the lessons. And this will be here, the lesson outcome, what you will learn, from each lessons, like what you expect to learn, what are the points that will be covered in each lessons and, expected to learn in more details, as you can see. This one will be the demos, as you can see, lab exercise as well. So we have 83 demos and labs. So, as you can see here, it will get a detailed explanation about each demo, what are the steps, what you should do, and so on. And again, one of the demos that we were running today is one of these demo. I think I put it here as free. So this is the demo that we will see today, which is the end-to-end CD deployment. And this demo, as you can see, exists in module 10. And the next page is this is the preparation points that you can use for preparing each topic. And we put here an article and video that you can, again, you can prepare for the points. And again, all of that is open source, exists on GitHub. We're working as a team, contributors that we're doing all of that. So you can, again, join us even and participate in that. Okay, this is for the platform. So let's look at the question and the answer platform. So again, if we're talking about, the community edition. So we're using issue. So this is the issue, and you can ask, and you can see we have 67 closed the issue. And again, this is the rules for how writing a question or raising an issue. So make sure that you read this rule and understand how to can ask a question so you can get the best result, for example. But for the private or the enterprise, we have a private platform. So this is a private platform where we have, for example, detailed steps about, all the labs. Let's say, for example, here you will find a detailed steps about doing all the labs and the exercise in a step-by-step, so for people can get more detailed. And this is exactly what I'm talking about, the enterprise and, the difference between the enterprise and the community edition. With enterprise, you get more acceleration for your learning. So this is an example. And of course, we have, a very strong, SLA for answering questions here on the private and direct support. And for the community edition, it just took time to answer your questions, but we usually will cover that. Okay, I think that's it for the platform. So let me get back to our slides. Okay, community and network. Again, we try to have our community is we have very passionate people about DevOps, and we try to gather them around these DevOps, and we building, for example, we have more than 120 people, with several level of experience. We have people with 20 years of experience. We have fresh graduate. We even have undergraduate people, and we try again, to have this variety of these people to help each other. And even we are from several locations in either in the Middle East or in Europe. We have many countries in Europe and even in US. And we recently we have also some people from Canada, which is I didn't add to the map. I should add that. So yes, we have many people and across the globe, and this is really great to have different perspectives about our practices. And again, for me, the idea is using this community to build the network where we can use this community for job opportunities. So again, expert people can choose from, fresh graduate or just, new users, or can help them to mentor them. So we share job opportunities, or hiring manager can select from our community. We have a COP or community of practice, COE, Center of Excellence, open source project study. So it's actually having this community is priceless, and we try to cover and run many events I will explain to you. And we have this mentor program where we try to, help each other find their mentor. Like fresh graduate can find a mentor that they can help them to, accelerate their career development. And to just give you a small example of what we are doing in part of our community, again, it's Center of Excellence and Community of Practice. So for example, if I look at Community of Practice, it's all about, sharing a concern about passion, which enable us to, get benefits of group learning, developing domain relationship, because, we are many people, have the passion about the same topic, which is DevOps, and then innovation, problem solving, and many that. And we also organizing, many events with guest speaker. I mean, in many countries and in well-known organization like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and many others, which shares their knowledge. And it's not only technical. Sometimes, for example, recruitment or talent acquisition around DevOps that they share. For example, we have this session, for example, in August, where Luke, for example, he explained how to get the best application for your CV and apply for a DevOps engineer in the UK. So we got several guest speaker session where we share our experience. So, and for Center of Excellence, we try to build some assets that we can use among our community to be used in project and so on. Okay, let's talk about continuous integration and continuous deployment CD. So let's talk about the technical part now. So now I'm going to cover a complete end-to-end, what are the steps as an end-to-end DevOps from the beginning to the end. And again, this will be high level, which you cover in the course, I will say in 10 modules. And this demo, as I explained in the 10th module, and this is why it came after explaining all of that. But let me give you a high level overview. Usually the task, or it starts by development. Of course, there is a prior development, there is a planning, but I will keep it out of scope for simplicity. So we will start by developing, and then you start developing a code. The developer write code. It could be application code, it could be part of that is infrastructure as code. And then once they write the code, they start building this code, which is run continuous integration. And this could be, or part of that, run the unit test, validating the code and make sure that everything is working correctly. And after that, creating the package, which is very important, that you just collecting all the files, the result or the artifacts from the build, and put them inside one package so you can easily distribute this package. After you create the package, you provision the environment, you create the environment that will host your application, and then deploy your application to the environment. This was, the legacy or the old engineering practices. But in the modern engineering, they say, or they just find out this is not correct, or this is not very efficient. And we just need to have intermediate, stage between package and provisions environment. And this is the stage where we call the store. So it's all about storing the package. So instead of package, like we build the package deploy, it is build, package, store, deploy. And this enables us to have one of the very important principle about continuous delivery is called build once, deploy multiple. Because once I build and store, I can deploy multiple times. If, for example, if I would like to deploy to a testing environment, I don't need to build again. I will just pick the package from the storage and deploy it again. So I can, apply the principle build once, deploy multiple. So, and again, in the course, version control covered in module 6. You can find all this information on GitHub. Continuous integration covered in module 7, and package management covered in module 8, and the CD or continuous deployment covered in module 9. And we covered that first by manually provision the environment, module 9, and module 10 covers the infrastructure as code. And again, this demo is in module 10 because we covered now all of that. And, so we are going to cover all this in one demo that cover all of that. Yes, Rehab will share the GitHub repo link. Please share that, Rehab, in the chat. So let's look at the end-to-end project. So as I explained, our demo will cover, and complete end-to-end, including the version control, the CI/CD, unit test, the package, the storage, the provision, the environment, creating the environment, and deploy the application to the environment. Okay, before we go to the demo, I prefer usually is to give you a visualization about what you expect to see in the demo, so you can start, getting, align with the demo steps. Because usually when the demo, like, it's like very comprehensive, people got lost, especially like if you like me. So I prefer to have a visualization about that. So this is what you are going to see in the demo. So first, we will start by, having our code of our application. We have some code for web application and infrastructure as code using Terraform. And first, we will create a repo in Azure repo. And once we create this repo, we'll start to configure a CI, configure a CD, and so on. And once I update my code, it could be the application. In my case, it will be the application, and then commit that. This will trigger the continuous integration pipeline. So the continuous integration pipeline will start looking, validating for the change, creating the package, and all of that. So again, it will start by validating. So if there is any error in the code, the unit test fail or anything, the continuous integration will fail. But if everything is correct, all my quality criteria are correct, and my code met all the quality criteria, then the first package will be created, which is the infra package. So the infra package consists of bunch of infrastructure as code files, which is Terraform files. And after validation, all about the packaging is all about bring all this, infrastructure as code in one package, so I can distribute that. Once this complete, then we will start creating the web package. So the web package is all about some MVC and ASP.NET core ASP.NET application for MVC, which includes some HTML, CSS, C#. And of course, it will first compile this. So the C# will be a bunch of DLLs that will be part of my application. And then, collecting all these files and start putting that as the web package. And this will be the previous task of, or the previous last step before the last step of the CI is creating the two package. After that, the CI will store the package. As I explained, the storage area, it's very important to have the storage area. So the CI will store the infra package and the web package in Azure Artifacts, which works as a storage area. So now I have my I have two packages stored, and this is the end of the CI, which is, stored the package or the created package after everything is working correctly. So once the package is, stored correctly, this will automatically trigger the CD. So the CD will be triggered because there is a new package available. So every time there is a new package available in the storage, this will automatically trigger the CD. So the CD first, it will, unlike the CI, it will first pick up the package, extracting the file from the package. Like, for example, in the infrastructure case, it will extracting the Terraform file and start installing Terraform application on the build agent and installing Azure extension, which is a plugin for Terraform. So Terraform can interact for Azure with the API of Azure, and then executing Terraform plan. So now we have the Terraform plan, and then, apply this plan. Once applying this plan, it will create the resource group and creating a service plan and creating web app on Azure, my Azure subscription or the Azure subscription. Not only that, but it will also configure the connection string. So, like putting what is the name of the database, what is the name of the SQL server, and the username and password, all of that as a part of the configuration. And then creating another resource group with Azure SQL and SQL database as well, and also enable the firewall so the web application can communicate with the SQL. I will show you that as a part of the infrastructure as code. So now, as you can see from the infra package, the CD completely provision and configure all the the desired or the needed environment. So now my environment is ready. So the CD will start pick up the next package, start extracting the CSS file, the HTML, the DLL, and start deploying this all this file to the web app. And then in this file, I can now open my web application and we can see its work. So as you can see, this is the demo that we are going to see now, and it will be completely from nothing. We only have the code, and then we will start building all of that. Okay. So let me now show the demo. So I will start by opening first. Just a second. So first, this is the code, and you can find the code also on GitHub. I will show you the source code. You can find it on the source code folder on GitHub. And when you open the project, you will find two directories or two folders. The first is, this will be for the infra, and will be for the web application. This is the Parse Unlimited, which is MVC ASP.NET MVC application. So I will open Visual Studio. Of course, you don't have to use Visual Studio. You can use anything, but of course, I will prefer to use Visual Studio so I can run the application. So once I open the folder with the Visual Studio, as you can see, this is the directory. I will click from here, create Git repository. So this will open for me this window, and I will say existing remote repository. And then here I will open, my Azure DevOps organization and open any project that I have and start creating a new repository for my project. Let's call it parts end to end. So now I will copy the URL of my repo and put it here and create and push. So as you can see, this will create the local repo and push my local repo to the remote repo. If I refresh now, as you can see, I have now the infra. This is the Terraform file for the infrastructure as code. And this is the web application. So now I have all my code on the remote repo. To just show you here, to run the application from the local, I will just open the SLN, the solution file, which is a Visual Studio file. So I can run the web application locally here on my machine. And I'll click run. This will run on IIS Express, which is built-in web server with the Visual Studio. And also behind the scene, there is SQL Server Express, which is also a free edition of the SQL Server. And as you can see, once I run the application behind the scene, it's using Entity Framework Code First, which create the database behind the scene in the SQL Express database. And as you can see, it's just an e-commerce application. Like it has lighting, batteries, oils, and just a sample or a small e-commerce site. It's called Parse Unlimited. Okay, so now let's now move to my Azure DevOps. I will start now build the CI or continuous integration pipeline. So I will open a new page. So this will creating a new pipeline. I will use the classic because it's better visualization. But again, you can use both. You can use YAML or classic, both of them working fine. I'm working here just for visualization. So DevOps course, this is the repo, and click continue. Since this project is ASP.NET, web application, I will choose the template ASP.NET. So the template here is just bunch of job tasks or build job tasks that is already created. But of course, you can start from empty job and start drag and drop these tasks from the beginning if you would like. But here, since I know that my application is ASP.NET, I will select this template, which will just generate these tasks for me. I don't need the test assembly and also the publish symbols, no need. But of course, I just need the build solution. This is the switches that will create the package. This is for publishing or storing my package into the build pipeline or build artifacts. And the build artifact will call the drop, as we will see. I will name my job, let's say, for example, web build and the package. And here I will also rename my CI, let's say parts E2E CI or continuous integration. And the most important is I will trigger the continuous integration trigger to be enable continuous integration. So what does it mean to enable the continuous integration? It means whenever I push a new code to this branch or this repo, as you can see, this is a filter based on the master branch. Whenever I push a new code, this will trigger the CI, as you will see. And here in the task, I will just add a new task because this will create the package, build and create the package for the web. I just need also to create the package for the infrastructure. So what I'm going to do is to start adding a new task, which is copy. So the copy files here, I will use it to copy the Terraform infrastructure file to create my package. Of course, I need to create the package of the Terraform first. So this is why I drag, because this will be run sequential. And here I will rename the display name of my task. This is for logging. And here I will choose where my infrastructure as code file, which is this directory. And here the content, which is all the files exist in this directory. And here will be the target to copy, which will be the build, staging directory. This is an environment variables that resolved on the runtime. You can find this information also very easily on, what will be this environment variable. So in this building directory, which will be the build artifacts, will be created directory called Terraform, and this will be the storage for my package for the infrastructure, as we will see. Okay, so now I have the CI configured and ready. So now I will create a CD, continuous deployment. Again, I'm using the classic. You can use YAML. They are the same at the end, give the same capabilities, it's just different representation. So here, new release pipeline. And again, since I'm going to create or provision and deploy to Azure App Services, so I'm going to use this task, which is Azure App Service deployment. Again, I could create an empty and start adding this task. I will call this stage QA. And here, if you remember, we talk about the first task in the CD was pick up the package from the storage. So this is why the first task the first task in configuring the CD is where my storage area, where I will pick up my package. This is why I will choose here where is the storage, and in my case the storage is the continuous integration build pipeline artifacts. This is why I will select the build artifacts, the CI. I will use this alias, and then I will just rename the parts unlimited E2E. And here I will, again, this is the trigger. So I will enable the trigger for continuous deployment. So again, what is the meaning of enable continuous deployment trigger? It means if there is new package, stored in the repository, then this will automatically trigger the CD. So once any new package is stored, this will trigger the CD and so on. Okay, so now the CD, I will just configure here the task for the deployment. Of course, before the deployment, first, I will need to install Terraform on the build agent. and also to run Terraform. So the first step, of course, I would like this first to install and run Terraform before deploying the application, because I need to provision my environment before deploying the application. So here I will put the version and I will use this version. And for Terraform here, I will just change the display name for the logging. And this will be initiate. And here will be the source for where my Terraform storage on the storage. And since I didn't run the CI yet, then it's not appearing as the UI. I can use hard-coded value, but I prefer to explain to you, in more visual. So here I will add the service connection. The service connection is all about, just imagine that Azure DevOps is a platform and Azure subscription is another platform. So service connection is all as as a connection between Azure DevOps and Azure subscription. So Azure DevOps can create or change resources on Azure subscription. And to create this Azure service connection, it's very easily. Of course, if you are admin on all environment, because it require admin permission, on especially on Azure ED, because behind the scene it creates service principal. So you would select here any of your Azure subscription and click authorize, and this will generate the service connection for you. Here I already have a service connection, and for the resource group I don't need to define because this will be created on the runtime. So now just here clone the task. And then here I will put, instead of initiate, it will be apply, because now I initiate the Terraform repo. This will be on the pipeline. And then now I'm going to apply the Terraform, which is executing the Terraform plan and then applying, the Terraform. And of course, I will select from the command apply. And since when you run apply for Terraform, it usually asks for your confirmation. And there is a switch called the auto approve. So I can run it as a silent mode. Okay, it's the same service connection. Now I'm going to configuration for deploying the web application. I will put the same service connection for the web application. And here for the app service name, what is the name of the app service? Again, this service, app service or web app is not exist yet on Azure subscription. So what I'm going to do is open the infrastructure as code to just bring the name of the app service or the web app that will be created. So for example, here, this will be the name of the app service. So now, I have everything configured and, ready for run, except one thing that I didn't specify where exactly the place of the package on the repository. And again, as I said, I could hard coded this value, or I could run the CI for the first time. So I can, I can see people asking about the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel, the link exists on the GitHub as well. So if you go for the first page, you will find, and I will show you that as a part of the demo as well. So again, instead of giving this link hard coded, I can run the CI. So it will, store the package for the first time, and then I can very easily navigate to the package. I will show you that. So here I'm going to run the CI just to store the first package. But again, I could skip this point. The main reason to just simplify how to find the package on the storage. So again, this will run the CI. Of course, I run the CI manually now. So if I open another instance of the web, so we can see now it's running, copy the Terraform file, restoring the dependency and the package, and build the application, compiling all the C# to DLL. So if I open here the pipeline, I will stop just the CD because I don't want to trigger the CD now, because I'm just running that to store the package. So now the CI completed. So if I go for the CI, we can see here, this is the published package and stored in the build artifacts. And this is the drop. And as we can see, we have two directories, the Terraform, which is the infrastructure web package, the infra package. This is the infra package, and this is the Terraform file, and this is the web package. So now, as we can see, when I run the CI, it's end with storing the two packages in the build artifacts. So now, if I open the CD and open the tasks, I can easily navigate to select where exactly the package. Because if I open that, we can see that inside the drop, it can see the drop location. So here I can see select the Terraform. Again, I don't have to do that. I could just write this text hard-coded because I know exactly where it will be stored, but I just wanted to keep it visual for you. So this will be for initiate, Terraform initiate, and Terraform apply as well, because I must specify where exactly the package of the Terraform. And then also I will specify the place of the package of the web. Of course, also I can use regular expression to find the package with zip file, but again, I could specify that. It's up to you again at the end. Okay, so now I am ready. I will just change that to be continuous deployment again and save. So now everything is ready. My CI configure, my CD configure, everything. So let's open two instances so we can see them. I will open this tab. We can see that for the CI using this tab for CI, and open my Azure subscription so we can see the existing resources. So as we can see here, this is the existing resource groups. So if I navigate to my version control for the infrastructure as code, we can see here the name of my resource group that will be created. It's called Web App Terraform Resource Group, or RG. And this will be the name of the web app. This will be the SQL server. And this will be the name of the SQL database. All these resources will be created on the fly as a part of the infrastructure as code. And here the default connection string. And you can see even here I have the username Imrad1 and the password. And of course, we don't write the password plain text as this, but this is to just keep the demo simple. We usually using secret management platform like Key Vault or any other ways, but this is just for simplifying the demo. So, and this is the password of the text. Islam, please, could you please put your mic?
Yeah, sorry for that.
Okay. So now I'm going to make a small change in the page. And here I'm going to change the parse unlimited. This is the head one to be DevOps course. And change here this Fabric and Fiber subsidiary to be by Mohammed Radwan. Again, this is on my local machine. So I will get change and then put a comment adding course name in the home page. And then as we can see, I can commit and push. So this will commit my changes locally and push that even in the remote repo. By pushing that, again, it will trigger the CI. As you can see, the CI triggered. Again, it will run, as we explained, validating, start, all the quality gates and start restoring all the dependency for the web applications, And here is, I can look at the history to see the changes, for example, to just show you the change in the def for the version control on Git. This is why I just change it now. So as you can see, the CI, restore the package, build the web package, publish the artifacts, and this is the Azure subscription. There is nothing created because again, this is the CI. Publish artifacts to publish both the infra package and the web package. So once the infra package and the web package published, this will trigger automatically the CD. So as you can see, the CD now triggered. If I open that, it queued waiting for available agent. So it just triggered automatically. So as you can see now, it's in progress. Start initializing the job. Again, what it will do, it's just getting the package, the infra package and the web package. So the infra package first. As you can see here, the name of the resource group, it's called Terraform. So if I search for any Terraform here, I don't have any resource group yet called with Terraform. So this is the Terraform apply. Just clear this filter and just give it a little bit time to provision the environment. As you can see, Terraform apply. If we go for more information about the logging, we can see here the logging still creating the resources. And of course, I can see that from the top. If I refresh, we can see now the resource group created. If I filter, this is the resource group that is created, but of course it's still empty because it's still creating all other resources. Now I have the service plan created. This is the service plan for my app service. And of course, I can go for the log. So if I can see here, it's service plan creating complete. This is why we can see the service plan. The SQL Server is still creating. So it's still creating other resources. Let's get back here, refresh. So now, as you can see, I have service plan and web app or service app service. We can still look at that from the summary. And this is the task of deploying the web app. But of course, I need first to provision the environment that will host my application, which is the web app and the database, and still creating the SQL Server. So it's created. So if not yet, still creating, but I can see here the firewall rule, because I enable the firewall, so the web app can communicate with the SQL Server. So let me refresh. So we can see now the SQL Server created. And if I open the SQL Server and navigate to network, I can see that allow Azure services. And this is exactly the rule that I typed in the Terraform, which is like using IP 0000. This means that enable other Azure services to communicate with the SQL. So this rule also is part of the infrastructure as code. And if I refresh, still creating the SQL database. This is the last resource, still creating. So just, provision and configure. Now it's complete, everything. This is the first part, which is provision and configure the environment. So now all the environment completed, and now it's deploying the application, which is again, get the web package, extracting the CSS, the DLL, and start pushing all this file to the app services that is just created. So if let's see the details for that. As you can see, it's adding the file, getting all the files, the DLL and CSS, HTML, and so on. just again pushing all the files to the app service. So now it's complete. So if I get back here, and if I open even here the web app and going to the configuration, we can see the default connection string, and you can see that this is the connection string that I showed you in the Terraform. So, and this was part of the provision. The environment is also to set the connection string and all of this configuration. So, and you can find here even my username and the password and everything. So now everything is complete and the application is deployed. So if I open the application now, navigating to the application, we can see the application is running and it's working correctly, and this loading on the database and everything, you know, working fine. We can see also the name change for DevOps course by Muhammad Radwan, and you can see all of that. It just all this deployment and provision the environment from, you know, just to change that on the local machine, and everything is completely deployed automatically with provision and everything. Okay, so that's it for that. And to just again for the YouTube people asking about the YouTube, this is the YouTube. I have two YouTube, you know, channels. So this is the English and this is the Arabic. And also for the source code, you can find it here. If you come here and this is the source code. So Parse Unlimited EE, this is the Terraform that you show here in the example. So if you just download the files and do that. If you are not familiar with Azure subscription, Azure DevOps, and Azure Parallelism, also we have a guide here that explains to you what you need. For example, if you click on guides, this is the prerequisite to run the demo. For example, you need to create Azure free account or subscription, and then create Azure DevOps organization and enable parallelism. For example, this is the steps to create Azure subscription for free, just for free, with $200 for 1 month. You just need a credit card and you can create it for free. Once you create that, you will create Azure DevOps organization. It's also for free up to 5 users. And once you create that, you will just request to enable the CI/CD, which is called DevOps Parallelism Grant. This is just a form that Microsoft asks you to fill this form so they can enable the CI, you know. And again, it's even the link, you will find it here. I think it's here. So if you open this link, you will find here asking you what's your organization name, and you will fill it for Microsoft. So if you complete all these 3 prerequisites, then you can do exactly the complete end-to-end for my demo exactly in your environment. I think that's it. Now we come to the feedback. So this is, I would really appreciate if you could leave a feedback. This is a RC code that you can scan for the feedback. Also, Rehab will share a feedback link that you can use to leave a feedback for us. Now time for question. Any question? Oh, yeah, come on, Keith.
Yes, Mohammed, again, I'm not disconnected right now. I'm connected now. So what I was asking about the Azure subscription.
You're breaking, Omar. Your voice is breaking, Omar. And now you are in mute. Okay, while Omar is we're getting back, is there any other question? Rahab, is any other question in the chat?
Yes, we have a question. Would you consider value in deploying a web app to a deployment slot first, then swap it to production?
I mean, this is a good techniques or having deployment to a slots again, but this is, this is decision regarding, your infrastructure decision. While in the DevOps, we more cover how we can change our infrastructure. I mean, having a deployment slot or not is part of your decision about your architecture of your environment. But for the DevOps is all about how to provision or update the environment. But yes, I mean, using deployment slots is really very good for blue and green deployment. Yes.
We have another one. I am completely new to DevOps. What will you advise for a beginner?
For beginner, again, I think you just need to spend some time learning, all these disciplines, as I explained. For example, understand the Scrum, how to work in a team, and then going for development to understand how to write application code, small code, and then, going for build and automation for CI and C. Taking all this part, you just need to, to start horizontally, because you need to understand the practice first. And again, I think if you just follow the repo and start, maybe getting practice on all these demos and try to, following that, try to practice on them, I think this will help you. Any other question?
Yes, I have a question, please.
Yeah.
First, thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed, for your presentation. It was very nice,
Thank you.
Very nice presentation, and have you get us very close to the picture we like to see. And I am a programmer, and I am very interested in DevOps field to swap or expand my horizon in this field. So I want to ask you something about Azure. Azure service is really nice. I saw like in your presentation a lot of details about the CI/CD process. Usually I use Heroku, which is I don't know if you are familiar with. It's like a cloud service for deployment.
Yeah.
It gives you the same option, but without you seeing what's happening underneath. So I'm very pleased to see what's happening underneath in more details. Is DevOps, I mean, if we see the next level, is it gonna give us more details, like what's going under the stage? If you got my question.
If you're talking about,
there's like more info about that, yeah.
If you are talking about the Azure DevOps platform as a platform for the details of, what happened, under, I mean, behind the scene or, underlying, like under the hood. So yes,
yeah, exactly.
With Azure Pipeline and Azure DevOps, you can get more details about the logging, verbose logging with the very details, exactly what's happening. And I usually say Azure DevOps is a complete end-to-end. Like we have Azure Repo for managing the version control. We have Azure Board for managing the team. We have Azure Pipeline for CI and CD. We have Azure Artifact for storage and package management. We have Azure Test Plans for managing test strategy, test activity, test case, test script. We have Wiki for Markdown and managing our documentation. So it's a complete platform that covers the entire end-to-end, with a fully integrated and, with a fully traceability and tracking between this integration. Okay.
Thank you very much. Last question.
Yeah.
Do you have advice for a specific field for DevOps? I saw lots of fields in Azure technology, like in terms of courses. What courses do you recommend for DevOps?
Okay, for DevOps, usually, like, I mean, Azure is not Azure DevOps, so Azure is Microsoft Cloud providing, services. This is where you have, your cloud services like app services, like Azure SQL and so on. But Azure DevOps, it's completely different. Azure DevOps is I will say it's an engineering platform for incorporating, developing, and deploying applications. So Azure DevOps is not Azure. So, and this is why if you look at courses, then you will probably search for courses for Azure DevOps and also GitHub, because Microsoft own GitHub and they build also capabilities around post direction, either Azure DevOps or GitHub as well. So you will find courses for that, and of course you can join our course as well. So it's open.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem. Kareem.
Hello, it's Karima. First, thank you so much for this presentation. I have a question regarding the tests. In DevOps, I noticed that the tests are running during the CI pipeline execution. So is that related to the test plans or it's different?
Okay, this is a good question. You know, we have two types of tests that running usually. So you have what we call the unit tests or quick tests that usually in memory. And this is, you know, like a very quick test. Yeah, like even in the course I show, Microsoft run usually 60,000 tests in around few minutes. So if the test is unit test or quick test and memory test, this usually the potential place to run is the CI. But if your test is an end-to-end test, acceptance test, or integration test, which require a long time to run, this will be usually is a part of the CD, or sometimes even could be like a nightly build that run all this test. Like for example, I work in one project that they have an integration testing as an end-to-end testing that like it took hours to run. So in order to run this integration testing, first we need to deploy the application and run the test by the CD, and this usually take hours. So it's not part of the CI. So what you saw today is, the unit test, which is run by the CI, because in the CI you just need a quick feedback, but the CD is completely different. I hope it's answered your question. Okay. Yes, Damagilo? Dami?
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I was looking at the templates for the CI, where you have the build solution, where we have MS build argument. So I understand that that was generated automatically, right? So my question goes, when you are trying to do a deployment to a deployment group, would you have to specify a new MS build, or you go with the default? Because I've tried the default when I was trying to deploy to a deployment group and field.
Sorry, I don't understand, Dima.
Okay, so now, for example, you are trying to deploy into an on-premises machine, and you would not want to expose your source code, or maybe deploy the source code into the path that you're actually deploying to on-premises environment. So now, at the MS build argument, something might need to be specified so that it can streamline whatever you need to, like deploy into the server. So trying the default template where we have the build solution, then the MS build argument. If I use the default one, it fails, except if I leave it empty. And leaving it empty, sometimes it picks all the code, including the source code, and deploy it to the machine, except if I have to ignore some file.
Usually, if there is a failure for the running, I will say that's a good sign, because you can look at the log and understand it. But if I understand you correctly, if you would like to run and deploy on premises, for example, environment, then you probably need to configure what we call the a self-hosted agent. So you will configure Azure Pipeline on your premises. So it will be within your network with your VPN, and so it's and so on. So you can deploy for like just follow the rules for the questions, and we are happy to help you.
Okay, thank you. And again, can you explain what a test like a field?
Yeah.
What the field is?
Yes, if you can have these details and just ask maybe in on the Git repo, we can help you fixing that. Okay, that's great. Is there any other questions? Okay, I think that's it then. So again, please, we are happy to have you on our GitHub repo. Please follow, try to interact. We are happy to have you as a contributors or to be part of our community and contribution, attending our future sessions as well, and participating in that. And we are looking forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Very, very good session.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you, Mohammed.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed.